My name is Vernon M. Byron. I'm a multidisciplinary artist who currently works at Dia Beacon. I was drawn to Charles Gaines' work by his unique form of process orientation, particularly the manner in which he utilized the grid as a systematic means of analyzing, interpreting, and recontextualizing the photographic image. When presenting his contrasting imagery, Gaines maintains a flexibility in his systems that preserves their indeterminate nature. Looking deeper, Gaines' use of the grid and the processes that he develops point to an underlying interest in political patterns and structures. The act of processing imagery in this way permits Gaines to covertly reference systems of oppression and the influence that they exert upon people of color. Going beyond the division of visual space, Gaines' grid becomes a device that is used to inspect the information of his photographs, filtering and translating that information into a series of gridded drawings. For instance, in his series Shadows 9, Gaines utilizes light and darkness in order to destabilize the deterministic relationship between object and shadow. The interplay of illumination and darkness thrusts the shadow into view, as the object casting the shadow recedes towards the darkened walls within the photograph. The unification of subject and shadow continues to progress as the photographs are transcribed into numerical notation and rendered onto their gridded picture plane. Yet, a muted sense of tension persists as each set of diptychs remain physically separated from one another, in spite of their proximity. The decisions that Gaines makes here subtly hint at racial segregation, silently enacting this division in visual form. In my own practice, I use the grid as an impartial method of dividing visual space and content, so that the divided imagery can be shared with collaborators who are paid to impart their own mark on the work. Once the shares are recombined, they are output and printed at architectural scale to realize the final installation. By coalescing labor in this way, the concept of site responsiveness evolves into a socio-political context, which critiques the imperialist nature of public art in urban spaces. Gaines continues his commentary on oppressive systems in the work Librettos, Manuel de Falla / Stokely Carmichael, where he chooses to investigate musical notation and composition as his primary organizational structure. Here, the musical score of a 1904 opera, La Vida Breve, by Spanish composer Manuel de Falla, which depicts the tragic tale of a doomed love affair between an aristocrat and his Romani lover, overlays the introductory words of Stokely Carmichael's 1967 speech at Garfield High School. Each of these initial works embodies the impact that systems of oppression have on the human condition, with La Vida Breve expressing the impact of class stratification and implicit bias, while Carmichael's speech questions the role of Black lives and Black labor and their use as tools to further white socio-political agendas, such as the Vietnam War. The combination of these source materials alludes to the foundations of American oppression. Like Gaines, Stokely Carmichael exhibits a clear predilection for process in the context of his activism. Carmichael often engaged with socially and politically oppressive institutions in order to expose their inequity. For instance, in 1961, Carmichael and a multi-ethnic group of civil rights activists participated in a series of freedom rides where they challenged the illegal segregation of the interstate bus system that provided transportation to much of the southern United States. They strategically integrated a number of interstate buses and trains by intentionally riding in multiracial groups, which violated the Jim Crow laws that predominated a majority of the southern United States. In my series To Kill a Mockingbird, I grapple with the subject of racism as expressed through police brutality. I developed a series of folded digital prints where I embedded images of roadkill into one set of folded planes, while I applied images of the aftermath of police shootings on the other. The folding pattern creates a series of rounded peaks and valleys that isolate each part of the imagery and causes the eye to oscillate between peak and valley, creating a sense of dissonance that is only resolved when the viewer is able to settle on one layer of imagery. The use of roadkill is intended to emphasize the violence that silently occurs in our streets and call into question our collective apathy and inaction.